Hi, we've been hearing a lot in the news about online games this month. Meridian, Wireplay just finished its trials, 3DO about to launch their system. What's the Kewney view of all this? Where's it all going to go?
Well, as you know, Steve, I'm a very serious person and I wouldn't waste my valuable time playing games, and neither, I'm sure, would any of the busy viewers here. However, it is a very good way of testing a machine to see how good its frame rate can keep up with these things. So I do advise people to run the software from time to time in a research spirit of mind. So the question is which one to do. And the short answer is that unless you're going through a very high-speed modem or a good ISDN link into a fairly well-served, over-resourced local server, then they are a pain, and a pain. I mean, Meridian from 3DO is supposed to be their way out of the hardware market. They're now calling themselves 3DO Studio or something like that. And it's very clever of them to do that, but their selection of a first game is web only. Now, I'm sorry, the web is not suitable for this. The reasons for it, and we can come back to the game in a bit, but I mean, it's actually very crucial to the way the web and charging structures in telecoms are going to develop over the next 2 years. If you look at the difference between the internet in this country and in America, you'll find that one of the crucial differences is that American TV was crap. And this has left its trail down history. Because they used NTSC, if you had a receiver of an antenna, what we call an aerial, you would, as they say, never get twice the same color. And the result was that people had to buy, if they lived in any sort of bad area of reception, they had to buy cable. Now, those cables are not the sort of cable that we get in London or in the UK, where you have lots and lots of fibre going into PABXs and massive data capacity. Those are coax. In other words, it's a tree. They have a transmitter here, and it goes out and it branches and it branches and it branches. So there is only one link from any individual user to the centre office, and if that's being used for transmitting data back, nobody else can, or else they have to restrict the speed with it. So when people talk about a cable modem in America, it's a concept we don't have over here. Now that gives you one side, that's one foot of this marching soldier. The other problem is that, of course, that in America, charging always has been cheap local call or free local call and claw the money back on long distance. Now in that situation, the internet has been a bit of a spanner in the works. For a start, they can't use the cables to provide the extra bandwidth back to the hosts, because they're just not set up that way, the way we are. And the other one is, of course, the internet is their enemy. Here it's not. BT really doesn't mind how much you use the internet. It'll reduce their long-distance tariffs a bit, but BT makes all its money out of local calls, always has done, always will do. It makes a little bit of extra out. It makes a packet on packet switching, if you'll pardon the expression. But the fact of the matter is that there is no equivalent structure for the internet that we have here in America, but all the software, of course, and all the charging structures are developing to suit the American market. Now that means that there are going to be changes. Now, Wireplay, as it was originally conceived, was not a game. It was not intended as a game server. That's what it's being used now because it's turned out to be a very good way of making money. But the original plan was that you would set up something which would be called a game server, but the idea was that you would nominate it as your one flat rate number. A bit like the current thing they have, you get 5 cheap numbers. You'd be one where you say, okay, any calls I make to this are included in the flat rate. Right. And it would have been BT's way of saying, this is the way into the internet, and that was their plan in the department that was doing this, that they would then steal the market. Because if they had this number, then it would then not be easier to nominate their own service to provide the internet access. Now, it works very well as a game, but the web won't. And here's the charging link. Because the Americans have to charge long distance and trying to do free, they are desperately trying to work out a way of the way traffic is handled on the web is not suitable for streaming multimedia data. And if they're ever going to do that, they're going to have to find structures for. Now, ATM, asynchronous transfer mode, will deal with that problem, but it doesn't exist, it isn't running. And that way you can definitely say, this link has got to go to there in real time and keep sending packets. You can't do that the way the American telephone system is set up. And the web is set up around the American telephone system. Now, there are lots and lots of caveats, extras, and exclusions to all this, but the end result is that if I am playing Meridian over the web, which is the only transport medium, what happens is there's 2 of you playing, one of them walks up to the other one and says, "Hello, Steve, how are you?" You say, "It was very nice to see you here." And you become aware that after a bit of the chat, you don't seem to be getting a response. The guy's standing there looking at you, but he's not responding. And after 5 seconds, 20 seconds, sometimes as long as a minute, you suddenly realize he's not there. And what has happened is he's been talking, the link between you, and or one of you and the other one in the server has slowed down to the point where the packets aren't getting through. Nothing is feeding through. He gets bored, you get bored, you go away. But the system still thinks you're there. So you've got this picture of a person who is there, gone. So you don't want to play a web game, I'm sorry, until they've actually sorted out this major problem with the infrastructure, or until Meridian has provided a set of their own servers. It's going to be a very funny game. That's not to say people won't play it, they will. But don't drive you crazy.
Okay, but people will play it nevertheless, you feel?
I think so, yes. It's
just because it's new and different, or?
Because they always have played multi-user dungeon games, even when they were, really quite grotty text games and kept resetting.
Yes, I noticed in Wireplay you can have 6 people in Doom and things like that.
Yes,
so
of course, we would never play multi-user Doom in the office.
I don't even know what it is. No. OS2 Warp, version 4, launched, claiming such things as dictation, voice recognition, and so on. Have you seen it and tried it yet?
Yes, I did see it. I haven't seen the latest version. I'll do IBM the courtesy of saying that the version I saw has probably been improved since I saw it. But the improvements they're going to do can't be that wonderful, and it really wasn't that wonderful when I saw it. Here's the problem. IBM has, it has what I would call an acceptable dictation system in its voice typer technology. In other words, if you have the sort of application where it is useful to you, it will be useful. But I doubt that it would be most useful to most of us. And the reasons are, first of all, you have to speak in discrete speech. You have to stop your vocal cords vibrating in between words. Second, it is very much a put a headset on thing. You can't just talk into any old thing. And third, it's the work it saves is only worth saving if you're doing it in batch mode. It's not something you can just do and then stop doing. For someone like a lawyer who has a lot of standard letters where you can use one word for a standard paragraph, or somebody who's doing repetitive stuff of that sort where things happen again and again, yes, then it can be worth it. There he can or she can probably get a letter from dictation to print much faster than dictating it into a dictaphone, sending the tape off to the typing pool, coming back, checking it, saying, no, that's entirely the wrong word, sending it back again. It's formal, it's very easily done. There are lots of advantages to doing it that way. Where it falls down, and this is perhaps a personal opinion, but I think you'll find it shared by experts in the field, is that there is not a GUI. Right? We have a GUI, we have a graphic user interface where you take a mouse and move the thing around. Now, you'll have noticed the difference between the old DOS command line and the GUI is quite radical. Sure. You don't do things with a GUI that you could do with a command line. It's sure, it's possible, and with Unix it's done. You take your mouse, you move it around, it translates what the mouse does into command lines and sends them through, and you have a big process running, creating command lines. But you couldn't do it that way. You couldn't run a command line machine from a mouse, you can't run a mouse machine from the command line yourself. Right. Because the thing is built around that. Now, a mouse is designed because computers don't understand voice. You would no more drive a computer with your voice by pretending it was a mouse than you would drive a computer with a command line with a mouse. Right, I'm with you. It's absolutely inappropriate. You do not, when you're trying to tell somebody to pick up a cup and move it over there, you wouldn't say menu, item, table, sub-item, cup, action. It is completely banal. You wouldn't think like that. It isn't appropriate. It's a waste of time, and it's silly. But nobody has actually gone so far as to design a voice user interface. Now, 2 years ago, somebody was working on this. There was a big consortium of people trying to do it. And as far as I could tell, it's come to nothing. And I suspect the reason is that it's bloody hard. When they invented the GUI, it took years of research by a genius, Alan Kay, who experimented on children and practiced. I don't mean he experimented with children. Yes. But he set up things with children to see how they naturally interacted with computers using something that they found they wanted to point at the screen. Now, if you don't want to point at the screen, you want to use your voice. You certainly don't want to pretend you're pointing at the screen. Yeah. Finger up. No, that's not how we work. So it falls down, as far as I'm concerned, badly in that sense.